Hello everyone, my name is Aishwarya and welcome back to another session of Daily Current Affairs. Now let's move on to today's topic. First one, partial app bans, National Research Foundation, India, ASEAN FTAs, Chandrayaan3 mission which is going to be launched today, then India-China trade, then we have Rafale deals with France, and then 50 GST Council meets today. So let's move on to the first topic. Is it possible to have partial app bans? So there is an internet shutdown in Manipur, and this is not the first time the government has done an internet shutdown. We have seen a lot of internet shutdowns in Jammu and Kashmir, but in the last 3 years it's not just Jammu and Kashmir but none other states like Maharashtra, Punjab, Haryana, Nagaland, etc. have seen internet bans actually. Now, the TRAI is actually looking into possibilities of having a selective app bans instead of a full and complete internet shutdown. So, why do you think it's necessary for an internet shutdown now? This is to actually prevent the spread of proactive contents, like there is a forwarding of messages of illegitimate messages in WhatsApp and other messaging application which could actually lead to proactive contents that are being circulated in the media. Now, other than this, there is a challenge for the internet ban. Now, there is blockage in access to education, to banking, to internet and for other information availability. It is also a loss of revenue to the other telecom sectors out there which is providing these services. Now, there is an approach suggested by TRAI. TRAI is the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. This is to actually ensure a cooperation of telecom operators and messaging app firms. Like we can see WhatsApp and other messaging firms like Apple, Signal and all. So, actually ensuring a cooperation between the government and this application to cut down the application to cut down their application for a certain time period in a very certain restricted area. But this is actually, there is a problem with this approach actually, so that's what we're going to be discussing now. MeitY is our Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, has also stated an added requirement of traceability to our IT rules of 2021. So what is this traceability? I am sending an original message and these messages get forwarded to many other applications, to many other users. So the government wants traceability is to actually identify the origin of the message or the person who is actually sending this message. But we see the other cooperators and regulators had told that this is not highly possible because we follow an end-to-end encryption, because of which this original messenger who is sending the message is not available or we can't trace the person out. Now let's come to another important thing like VPN, virtual private networks, that is relevant with the issues of app bans and internet access. Now VPN is virtual private network. So I will tell you what a virtual private network is. It is a secure and encrypted connection over a less secure network. So we can say that internet is actually an open network but is less secure. Through this internet, the VPN actually provides an encrypted service. See here, this is a VPN server. This is the internet service provider which is the open access but it is actually of less secure. So this VPN actually provides an encryption. With that, in this particular low secure internet connection itself, the VPN provides you very secure and encrypted internet connection to the user. That is what VPN does. But the VPN is encrypted because of which the government has very less visibility, which means that the government cannot identify the user or access their data which they use. Now with this VPNs, if even the government asks a website to block some of their contents, the VPN with this can bypass these blocks and access all the blocked contents within it. Thus, VPN poses a danger to the government. The VPN is actually used by very privacy conscious user and the government states that maybe this is used by terrorists and other cyber bullies. So these are some of the issues that the governments face with VPN. So how does the VPN route data? The VPN route data through servers located in other countries and it constantly changes their IPN address. Thus, it can evade detection. Now, the CERT-IN, that is our Computer Emergency Response Team, has given directions requiring the VPN firms to retain records of the users from India. But some of the large VPNs have actually restricted access or servers to the Indian users. Then another other major concern is that blocking VPN is not a very straightforward, and which means that even if the VPN is blocked, the data and other content blocked installations can still be found somewhere elsewhere in the online platform. Thus, VPN traceability are some of the major issues that the government has to tackle to ensure internet access to the people out there in certain areas where the conflict is happening. Now, let us move on to another topic which is a very important, is the National Research Foundation. The Parliament has presented National Research Foundation Bill, and it's one of the key recommendations thereof the National Education Policy 2020. Now, why is this NRF needed? It actually ensures the fair allocation of funds to promote international collaborations and interdisciplinary partnership. Now, the government has already budgeted about 50,000 crore for the enactment of NRF for 5 years, and the government is paying a half of sum of 28% and 72% from the private sector. Now, this we can see as an increase in India's investment from about 0.7% of GDP to 2% of the GDP. Okay, now there is an investment increase in just 0.7% of the GDP to 2% of the GDP, but this is still less. Comparing to the USA, China, India spends less than 24 times the amount which is spent by India and US. So, there is an immediate requirement for National Research Foundation setup. So, let us see that. Declining research investment, as we have seen, 0.7% to 2%, but it's still less. Even South Africa and Israel has about 4% of GDP investment in research and development, but this is still a progressive growth from 0.7% to 2%, and we can see in the future that maybe with artificial intelligence and other technology driven, India's investment in research and development could increase over time. Now, low research output and less patents. You see, in China, about 1.5 million patents are there registered annually. Even that too in USA is close to 1 million, but in India it is just about 45,000 patents. And in that 70% of the patents are non-resident Indians. Thus, India needs to increase their patentship, to relax the criteria in it and allow more patents into that. Then, lower private sector involvement, only about 35%. Now, there is an importance, and private sector should take the initiative in research and development, and thus in this NRF the government has plotted about 72% of investment coming from the private sector and just 28% from the government sector. Now, limited research opportunities. About a majority, that is 65% of the funds are provided for IITs, and a very less are provided, about 11% to the state universities. So, NRF also focuses on increasing fund and research and development in universities all over India, including the state universities. Now, that's why NRF is pretty much important right now. Now, moving. Government curbs gold import to check rising shipment through Indonesia. The important thing which you need to learn is India, ASEAN for trade agreement, free trade agreements. Now, first thing which you need to know that this topic India-ASEAN FTA is important for our GS2. Okay, so there we can expect questions in this, and this would be a boost to the answer. Now, there is an increase in duty-free import of gold jewelry from Indonesia under the India-ASEAN FTA. Indonesia is not known for exporting jewelry or gold to India, but in the last few months there has been an increase in 3 to 4 tons of gold jewelry coming from Indonesia. So, Indian government assumes that this is not from Indonesia, and a third party or third country is routing to India to get the jewelry into India without any duty. Thus, it's equal to dumping. Now, the thing which we need to learn here is the importance is ASEAN. You know, to ASEAN is Association of Southeast Asian Nations. These are 10 member states of intergovernmental cooperation. These are the 10 ASEAN countries: Laos, Myanmar, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, and Brunei and Philippines. So, these are the 10 important countries coming under ASEAN. We should also know how this India-ASEAN Free Trade Agreement has resulted with India. Is it positively, is it negatively, what are the advantages India had, what are the criticism or the disadvantages that India faces having this free trade agreement. Now, market of almost 1.8 billion people with a combined GDP uses of 2.8 billion. There has been an increased investment in the market sectors of India. Also, there is a tariff liberalization around 90% of the goods like palm oil, tea, rubber, so on, and also other special products. But there is a lot of criticism with the free trade agreement that India have now. Opening up of its markets. India is a import driven country, whereas this ASEAN members, the 10 countries are export driven countries. So opening up of our Indian domestic market means that there is a lot of incoming imports into India, and thus it creates a huge trade balance and trade deficit, with India importing a lot and the exporting to the country is pretty much very less. This also disrupts our market economy. Like in Kerala, we have coconut and plantation industries and stuff. These are highly threatened by the incoming imports, cheap imports by these countries, and other sectors like plantation, spice also could be affected and disrupting our local vendors here. So these are what I have mentioned, everything in criticism. Now moving on to the third topic, and it's very important today because today is the launch of Chandrayaan3, and Chandrayaan3 will be launched by about 2:35 p.m. today, which is half an hour for 1 hour from now. Now Chandrayaan3 is India's third mission to moon, aim to land a rover on lunar south pole. Okay, so many countries have launched their missions to moon, but it's very important that India is launching to the south pole of the moon. The south pole is an important place because there we have no sunlight there. The moon doesn't get any sunlight and it's partially covered with darkness year and year around. So we can discover a lot of new things, water resources, then record of the moon's history, our solar history and earth history. So we can find a lot from Chandrayaan3. Chandrayaan3, the module consists of 3 major modules: a propulsion module, a lander and a rover, and also a special spectral polarimeter. Okay, so these are the components that Chandrayaan3 carries along with it. India is not the first country, but US, Russia and China have successfully soft landed on the moon. Now there is some basic comparison that you have to learn, you should know about the Chandrayaan's mission, that Chandrayaan3 and Chandrayaan missions that India sent. Chandrayaan1 in 2008, Chandrayaan2 2019, Chandrayaan3 is July 14th, 2023. Now the first initiative was just to study about the lunar surface, and going on that, in Chandrayaan2 and Chandrayaan3 we focus on the southern pole, specifically the southern pole of Chandrayaan2. Components have orbiter, moon, impactor and a probe. We have an orbiter here, a lander Vikram and rover Pragyan. But in Chandrayaan2 only the orbiter was successfully orbited the moon. The other lander and rover failed missions. So in Chandrayaan3 there is no orbiter. We are just sending a lander and rover. Okay, and a propulsion module. We are not sending an orbiter. This is something which you need to keep in mind. We are not sending an orbiter in Chandrayaan3 because it was successful in Chandrayaan2. Okay, the first findings was confirm the presence of lunar water, lunar caves, other tectonic activities, faults and fractures which we see on moon, and there was confirmed presence of all these criteria on moon. Now the evidence of water molecules is shown by Chandrayaan1. Building on the evidence of water molecules that was shown by Chandrayaan1, and we are yet to find the findings of Chandrayaan3. Now the lander crash landed, rover was unable to operate. Thus we are sending lander and rover in Chandrayaan3 mission, and Chandrayaan3 we are launching it by launch vehicle Mark 3. It is a 3-stage vehicle, launch vehicle, and can carry load up to 8,000 kilograms. Okay, and its landing site is lunar south pole. This is very important, you have to keep in mind. And this time Japan is also helping India in coordinating this event. Okay, now there are some other important news, 3 other important news which you need to know. India's January-June trade with China declines amid slowdown. See, China's imports has been declining. China's exports and imports has been declining, and there is a slowdown in the world's second largest economy. Indian-China's two-way trade was about 66 billion, but there was a slide in imports from China to about 0.9%. Thus, our imports currently stand at about $56 billion. Now, with PM flying to Paris, India approves plan to buy 26 Rafale marine jets for the Indian Navy in aircraft carriers. 26 Rafale jets are being ordered by our ministers and the councils, defense approval councils. Along with this, 3 Scorpion class submarines are also being ordered from France. 50th GST Council meet lifts the fog on many areas. Now, there has been a recently 50th GST Council meet and a lot of debates on constituting an appellate tribunal and a levy or increasing taxing on online gambling games and casinos. So, in this discussion, the GST Council has finalized about 28% of tax levy on online games, casinos and horse riding. We know that states like Goa and all, they rely more on the tax and reforms, tax that comes from the casinos and games based tourism. So, this is very important. Also, some other reforms are that in movie theatres and such, there is a 5% less GST imported on goods and foods and beverages, and also there is actually exempt in tax in drugs which is used for cancer and other rare diseases. So, these are some of the reforms that the 50 GST Council has imposed. Now, these are some of the few important current affairs that I have seen in the news today, and I will be with more tomorrow. Thank you.